Year 12. So for today's lesson, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing an Adrolo type video. So today we're continuing on with core 2, which is how does training influence movement and performance. For today's lesson focus, we are doing the dot point assess the types of training and training methods and their relevance for a variety of sports. I'm going to take you through aerobic training and Mr. Chima is going to take you through anaerobic training. To start things off today, I just want to go over the verb for this dot point is assess. So when we're answering assess questions, we need to look at what is it, what does it do, how does it do it, what does it lead to, and within this specific point, what does it lead to will look like advantages and the disadvantages. So let's look at aerobic training. So what is aerobic training? Aerobic training is a type of exercise that relies on the use of oxygen to fuel the body over extended periods of time. This type of training is typically moderate in intensity but sustained for longer durations, involving activities like running, cycling, swimming, or brisk walking. Its primary focus is on improving cardiovascular and respiratory efficiency. So what does aerobic training do? Aerobic training enhances the body's ability to transport and use oxygen efficiently to improve cardiovascular and pulmonary health. Increases endurance, helps regulate body weight, and strengthens the heart, lungs, and muscles. This type of training is essential for overall fitness and stamina. So how does aerobic training work? During aerobic exercise, the heart pumps blood more efficiently to the lungs to increase their capacity to take and utilize oxygen. The energy required for this prolonged effort is generated through aerobic metabolism, where carbohydrates and fats are broken down in the presence of oxygen. This allows for the body to sustain activity for long periods of time without fatigue. So what does this lead to? So the advantages of aerobic training is it improves heart health. So it strengthens the heart to reduce the risks of cardiovascular disease. It increases lung capacity, which enhances respiratory function, improving stamina and endurance. It supports weight loss in a way as it burns calories and fats. It reduces stress and stimulates endorphin production, which improves mood and mental health. It increases endurance, so it builds up stamina, enabling longer periods of activity with less fatigue. The disadvantages of aerobic training is its risk of injury. Repetitive activities like running can lead to overuse injuries, like shin splints and knee pain. It's time-consuming. Aerobic exercises often need to be performed for extended periods to see significant benefits. There is sometimes a plateau in progress. Without varying intensity or activities, improvements may plateau over time. Muscle loss, when overdone without strength training, aerobic exercise may lead to muscle loss, particularly if combined with poor nutrition. The first of our aerobic training methods is continuous training. So what is continuous training? Continuous training is a type of aerobic training where exercise is performed at a steady, moderate intensity without any rest periods or breaks. This method involves maintaining a consistent pace for an extended duration, typically lasting from 20 minutes to several hours, depending on fitness levels and goals. Activities like running, cycling, swimming, and rowing are commonly used for continuous training. So what does continuous training do? Continuous training improves cardiovascular endurance, boosts the efficiency of the heart and lungs, and enhances the body's ability to use oxygen. It helps to build stamina and muscular endurance over time. This method is particularly effective in training for long distance events and improving overall aerobic fitness. How does continuous training work? During continuous training, the body relies on aerobic metabolism to produce energy. This process uses oxygen to break down carbohydrates and fats, providing a steady source of fuel for prolonged exercise. By maintaining a constant heart rate in the aerobic zone, which is typically about 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate, continuous training enhances cardiovascular and respiratory functions, allowing the body to adapt to endurance events. So then what does this lead to? So again, we're going to look at the advantages of continuous training. So it improves cardiovascular endurance, which enhances heart and lung function, making the body more efficient at oxygen uptake and usage. And down here, I've got my little definition of oxygen uptake, which I would encourage you guys all to read. It burns calories. Steady state exercise helps with burning fat and weight loss. Its simplicity, it's easy to perform as it doesn't require specialized equipment or complicated routines often. It improves mental toughness. Continuous training builds mental resilience by sustaining effort over extended periods. It's suitable for all fitness levels. Intensity can be adjusted to match individual capabilities. You have improved aerobic capacity. Continuous training increases the body's ability to deliver and use oxygen efficiently. It reduces recovery times. Over time, this type of training helps athletes recover faster after physical exertion. The disadvantages of continuous training. So there's the risk of overuse injuries. Prolonged repetitive motions, like running, can lead to injuries of joint strain, shin splints, and tendinitis. It's time consuming. To gain significant benefits, continuous training requires a long duration, which might not fit into everyone's schedule. There's limited intensity adaptations. It doesn't effectively improve speed, strength, or power as it focuses on endurance. There is that plateau effect we talked about. Without variation or intensity changes, the body may adapt, leading to a fitness plateau. And there's a monotony and a lack of variation. So performing the same exercise for extended periods of time can become boring, leading to a lack of motivation in athletes. So as said before, some sports that are most likely to use the continuous training methods would be your marathon running, your swimming, your road cycling, triathlon, cross-country skiing, and rowing. Just want to note here that for swimming and rowing, it's those endurance events, okay? It's nothing short. Next aerobic training method is fartlek training. So fartlek training, which means speed play in Swedish, is an aerobic training method that blends continuous training with interval training. It involves varying the intensity or effort during exercise, alternating between periods of faster running or other aerobic activities and slower, more moderate efforts. Fartlek is typically less structured than interval training, allowing for flexibility in the intensity and duration of each interval. So what does fartlek training do? Fartlek training helps to improve both aerobic and anaerobic capacity by challenging the cardiovascular system while also incorporating speed and endurance. It conditions the heart and lungs for sustained effort, but also trains the muscles to handle bursts of high intensity. This method is often used to improve overall fitness, speed, endurance, and recovery. How does fartlek training work? During fartlek training, the athlete alternates between fast and slow paces, which increases the demand on both the aerobic and anaerobic energy systems. The body switches between using oxygen for energy during the slower intervals and relying on stored energy, glycogen, during the faster intervals. This variation in intensity not only helps with endurance, but also helps the body adapt to different paces and effort levels, making it more versatile in real-world scenarios and situations like sports or races. So what does it lead to? So the advantages of fartlek training is it improves both aerobic and anaerobic fitness. By varying intensity, fartlek enhances endurance while also training for speed. There's flexibility. The unstructured nature of fartlek training allows for individual pacing and adjustments, making it adaptable to different fitness levels. It's engaging and versatile. So the variation in pace makes the workout more enjoyable and reduces monotony, which can improve adherence to a training plan. It's great for sports performance. It mirrors the stop and go nature of many sports, making it useful for athletes in games like soccer, basketball, rugby, AFL. The improved speed and endurance, the mix of fast and slower intervals trains the body to perform well at different intensities, boosting overall fitness. It's better lactic acid tolerance. Fast intervals help the body learn to manage and clear lactic acid, reducing fatigue during intense exercise. The disadvantages of fartlek training is the risk of overtraining. If not done carefully, the high intensity intervals can lead to overtraining or injury, particularly for beginners. The lack of structure, the flexibility of fartlek training can be a disadvantage for those who need more structured routines for specific performance goals. It requires self-discipline. Since there is no set time for intervals, it requires motivation to push oneself during the faster phases. It is not ideal for beginners. The rapid changes in intensity can be overwhelming for those new to exercise, making it harder to follow. It's difficult to measure progress since it lacks a set structure. It can be harder to track improvements compared to more standardized training methods like interval training. So again, some sports that will use the fartlek training method would be things like football or soccer, AFL, rugby, field hockey, basketball, and netball, as they all change in speed and intensity throughout their gameplay. Before we move on to our next aerobic training method, I just wanted to touch on a little definition for us. So the anaerobic threshold is the point during exercise at which the body transitions from a primarily using aerobic energy with oxygen to anaerobic energy without oxygen. At this threshold, lactic acid starts to accumulate in the muscles because the body can't clear it as quickly as it's being produced, leading to fatigue. Training to increase the aerobic threshold allows athletes to sustain higher intensities of exercise for longer before experiencing fatigue. The second last aerobic training method we're going to be looking at is aerobic interval training. Aerobic interval training is a structured form of aerobic exercise that alternates between periods of moderate to high intensity activity and lower intensity recovery periods. The key difference from continuous training is that aerobic interval training introduces brief recovery phases between bouts of more intense exercise. Each interval typically lasts from 1 to 5 minutes, followed by recovery phases or similar or slightly shorter duration. The focus of maintaining an aerobic effort during the work intervals. What does aerobic interval training do? Aerobic interval training improves cardiovascular fitness by challenging the heart and lungs through varying intensities. This method helps increase endurance, stamina, and the body's ability to use oxygen more efficiently. By including recovery periods, aerobic interval training allows individuals to sustain higher levels of effort during the work intervals than they could in continuous exercise. How does aerobic interval training work? During the high intensity intervals, the heart rate increases, demanding the body to use more oxygen to generate energy. The low intensity recovery phases give the body a chance to partially recover, but not fully, which keeps the cardiovascular system engaged throughout the session. This form of training improves the efficiency of oxygen transport and utilization, making the body more capable of sustaining longer periods of moderate to high intensity work. So what does it lead to? The advantages of aerobic interval training is it improves aerobic fitness more efficiently than continuous training. Altering between work and recovery periods allows for individuals to maintain a higher intensity for longer overall sessions. Variety keeps workouts interesting, so the structured challenges in intensity prevent the monotony of continuous exercise that may improve adherence. It boosts cardiovascular health. Interval training pushes the heart to adapt, improving both the heart rate and oxygen efficiency. It is adaptable for all fitness levels. Interval durations and intensities can be adjusted according to an individual's fitness levels. There is increased stamina and endurance, so over time aerobic interval training helps build the endurance needed for longer periods of sustained activity. Faster recovery, the body becomes more efficient at recovering during the low intensity phases, which translates to quicker recoveries after workouts. The disadvantages of aerobic interval training is the risk of injury. Higher intensity intervals may increase the risk of overuse injuries, especially if not done with proper technique or progression. More demanding, this form of training requires more mental and physical effort than steady-state aerobic exercise, which can be difficult for beginners. Complexity in programming. Compared to continuous training, interval training requires more planning and attention to work-rest ratios to ensure progress. Potential for overtraining. that's it. That's all of our dot points. So again, just some sports that will use the aerobic interval training will be your 150-meter longer athletic events, 800 or longer swimming events, triathlon, cycling, long distance speed skating, endurance canoeing, and kayaking. This is our last one. I promise I will stop talking so soon. So what is circuit training? Circuit training is an aerobic training method that combines different exercises targeting various muscle groups and energy systems in a sequence with minimal rest between stations. Each station focuses on a specific exercise that can include both aerobic and strength-based movements. Circuit training can be adapted for different fitness levels and goals and often consists of 8 to 12 stations with varying intensity and duration. What does circuit training do? So circuit training improves both aerobic fitness and muscular endurance by incorporating cardiovascular exercises like jumping jacks or running in place and resistant exercises like squats, push-ups, or lunges. It enhances overall fitness, cardiovascular health, and strength while providing a total body workout. So how does circuit training work? During a circuit training session, participants move quickly between stations, performing each exercise for a set time, usually 30 seconds or a minute, or a set number of repetitions. This brief rest between exercises keeps the heart rate elevated, maintaining an aerobic effort throughout the workout. The combination of different exercises ensures that the body remains challenged both aerobically and anaerobically, leading to improvements in endurance, strength, and cardiovascular function. So what does it lead to? The advantages of circuit training is it's time efficient. Circuit training provides a full body workout in a relatively short period, making it ideal for those with limited time. It improves both aerobic and anaerobic fitness. The combination of cardio and resistance exercises both boosts cardiovascular health and muscle strength simultaneously. The variety of exercises, circuit training can be easily customized with different exercises, keeping workouts engaging and preventing monotony. Suitable for all fitness levels, exercise can be scaled in intensity, making circuit training accessible to beginners and challenging for more advanced athletes. So the disadvantages of circuit training is the risk of improper form. Moving quickly between exercises may lead to improper technique, increasing the risk of injury, especially with resistance exercises. It may not focus on specific goals. While circuit training improves overall fitness, it might not be ideal for those seeking highly specialized training, e.g. strength or endurance alone. There is limited rest periods. For beginners or those with low fitness levels, the short-term periods may cause fatigue or overexertion. It requires equipment or space. Some circuit training programs need equipment or enough space to perform a variety of exercises, which might not be accessible for everyone. And it's not ideal for maximal strength gains. Due to aerobic focus and limited rest, circuit training is less effective for building maximum strength compared to traditional strength training programs. And again, Year 12, the sports that might make use of circuit training would be your football codes, your hockey, field and ice, basketball, netball, lacrosse, and handball.
Thank you, Miss Gross, for that wonderful explanation of aerobic training, and good morning to all my wonderful Year 12s today with me. We're going to be exploring anaerobic training, a key component in developing power, speed, and strength in athletes. We'll be assessing the different types of anaerobic training, including anaerobic interval training, high intensity interval training, sprint interval training, plyometrics, and resistance training. We're also going to be looking at the types of anaerobic training, so the advantages and disadvantages, as I mentioned, and then also different sporting contexts. And on to our next slide. So I'll just get my highlighter up. So when looking at anaerobic training methods, it's important to remember that anaerobic training consists of exercises that involve short, high-intensity efforts where the supply and the demand for oxygen exceeds the body's supply, leading to a reliance on energy systems like the ATP-PC. It includes various forms such as anaerobic interval training, high intensity interval training, sprint interval training, plyometrics, and resistance training, like the ones that we'll be looking at today. Now let's take a deeper look. Anaerobic training focuses on developing the body's two anaerobic energy systems, which are essential for high intensity activities that last from just a few seconds to around 2 minutes. This type of training helps athletes improve their power, strength, and speed, making it vital for sports that require quick bursts of energy, like sprinting or weightlifting. Interestingly, recent studies have also found that anaerobic training can enhance aerobic endurance, which is how well the body uses oxygen during longer activities. When athletes engage in anaerobic training, they increase their muscles' ability to handle lactic acid. Highlight that there. Which is a byproduct of intense exercise, allowing these athletes to perform at a higher intensity before feeling fatigued. This training also improves how quickly the body recovers between high intensity efforts, helping athletes get back to their peak performance faster. Additionally, anaerobic training speeds up the process of producing ATP. Just highlighting that there. The energy source for muscles, enabling athletes to maintain intense activities for longer periods. And ultimately, by improving strength, power, and recovery, anaerobic training allows athletes to execute stronger and faster movements, such as powerful throws or quick sprints, which are crucial for their performance in sports. Let's go to our next slide. Alrighty. Now, looking at anaerobic interval training. Alright, I'm experimenting with a bit of colors and stuff. So, anaerobic interval training involves alternating between high intensity exercise and recovery periods, typically lasting between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. This type of training is designed to improve speed, power, and anaerobic endurance by pushing muscles to perform during intense bursts and recover during low intensity intervals. So, it increases the efficiency of ATP-PC, helping muscles produce energy faster, improves an athlete's ability to tolerate and remove lactic acid, delaying fatigue. How it works is by regularly pushing the body to its limits during the intense intervals, the muscles adapt to working harder and recovering faster, as mentioned. Let's highlight a few things, lasting between 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and the muscles adapt to working harder and recovering faster. Now, some sport examples include basketball and soccer. In basketball, we'll be looking at sprinting up the court and then resting briefly during a free throw. And in soccer, you could be looking at quick sprints to chase the ball, followed by jogging during gameplay. Now, some advantages may include improving both the anaerobic endurance and recovery, and can easily be tailored to the specific demand of any sport. Some disadvantage may include intense on the body and can increase the risk of injury if not done with the proper form and recovery. On to the next slide. Now on to our next slide. High intensity interval training. So, it involves alternating between various intense bursts of exercise, like sprinting or cycling, and short periods of rest or low intensity exercise. So it typically lasts between 20 seconds to about a few minutes per interval, with recovery periods usually matching slightly longer than the usual work intervals. So what it does is it develops both the anaerobic and the aerobic energy systems, increasing the metabolic rate and boosts calorie burn even after the workout ends. How it does it? So during the high intensity bursts, your body primarily uses the anaerobic systems, and then the recovery periods allow that partial replenishment of ATP stores. But overall, fatigue builds up over the session, improving the athlete's endurance and power. So it enhances fat burning, cardiovascular health, and muscular endurance. And it's particularly effective for those who are short on time but still want to see significant fitness improvements. And one of the main advantages, actually, of high intensity interval training is its ability to improve overall fitness in a short period. So in a short period, time efficient. And it's also great for improving both the anaerobic and aerobic fitness simultaneously. Some sport examples that I did skip and I did not notice was tennis and hockey. So in tennis, looking at explosive rallies followed by short recovery periods between points, and in hockey, potentially looking at quick sprints and bursts of action during gameplay, followed by those brief rests between shifts or play. A disadvantage could be physically demanding, and it may require longer recovery periods between sessions. Cool. On to our next slide. Now, looking at sprint interval training. So it involves performing all-out sprints followed by long recovery periods. So sprints usually last between 20 to 30 seconds, and rest periods can last from 2 to 4 minutes, allowing for almost full recovery between efforts. Sprint interval training is particularly effective for improving speed and anaerobic power, as it recruits fast twitch muscle fibers responsible for those explosive movements. And the repeated maximum effort sprints push the ATP energy system, helping athletes develop faster acceleration and greater top-end speed. However, it is important to remember that over time, sprint interval training leads to significant improvements in anaerobic capacity and the ability to sustain high-intensity efforts. So a few things that I will highlight for you guys to remember is, as I mentioned, it's typically 20 to 30 seconds of maximum effort, and then followed by those longer recovery periods of 2 to 4 minutes. And particularly aimed improving speed and power. So it develops fast twitch muscle fibers, increases the efficiency of anaerobic glycolytic system. How it works: pushes the body to its maximum, forcing those muscles to adapt to producing energy quickly. Sporting examples would be track sprints, so short distance sprinters who need to maximize speed in a short time frame, and soccer, so sprints across the field to chase the ball or make a play. Looking at some advantages, so the main advantages of sprint interval training is its ability to develop explosive power and speed in a short amount of time. So highly effective for speed and power. And it can also lead to a significant improvement in anaerobic capacity with shorter sessions. Looking at a disadvantage though, it requires maximal effort, which can be taxing on the body, and it's also not suitable for beginners due to the intensity of the training. Excellent. On to our next slide. So now looking at plyometric training. So plyometric training focuses on the explosive high-intensity exercises that improve power, speed, and quick movement responses. Exercises like box jumps, squat jumps, and bounding are common in plyometric training routines, which rely on the stretch shortening cycle of muscles. The training improves the ability of the muscles to store and release the energy rapidly, which helps athletes perform powerful movements quickly. So involves explosive exercises, trains the muscles to produce maximum force in the shortest time possible. And also it's important to remember that it focuses on developing power, speed, and agility. So improves the muscle to generate force quickly. That's what it does, which is key for explosive movements, as I mentioned, like jumping or sprinting. And it enhances neuromuscular coordination and reflexes, helping athletes to react faster. So reaction time. How it works? Well, by performing exercises, as I said, like the box jumps, the squat jumps, and the bounding, athletes train their muscles and nervous system to activate quickly, improving their ability to generate power. Some sporting examples may include basketball, so jumping for rebounds or quick directional changes during gameplay, and volleyball, so explosive jumps for spikes and blocks. Looking at some advantages. So one major advantage of plyometric training is that it builds power and speed effectively. So it increases power and speed. And it also improves athletic performance in sports that require quick, explosive movements. So disadvantage, high risk of injury. It's a big one. If not performed with proper technique or adequate strength foundation. So it's important to remember that this training is often used by basketball players to improve jumping for rebounds and dunks, as well as volleyball players to enhance their vertical leap for spikes and blocks, as I mentioned. Next slide. Now, looking at our last one, we've got resistance training. So, resistance training involves using weights, resistance bands, or body weight to build muscular strength and endurance and power. It is one of the most effective ways to increase muscle size and strength by challenging the muscles through progressive overload. So a few things that I'll highlight. Involves using the weights, resistance bands, or body weight to build muscle strength and endurance. It's also important to remember that it targets both slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers, helping to develop muscle size, power, and strength. Now, over time, this forces the muscles to adapt and to grow stronger, improving overall body composition and muscular endurance. Resistance training also has the added benefit of strengthening bones and improving joint function. It boosts anaerobic capacity by improving the efficiency of the ATP PC system, which fuels short bursts of intense effort. And how it works is through exercises like squats, deadlifts, bench presses. These muscles are basically forced to work against a resistance, causing the small tears in the muscle fibers that rebuild the stronger during recovery. Some sporting examples include rugby and weightlifting. So in rugby, heavy lifting to build strength for tackling and scrummaging, and then weightlifting, maximizing muscle power for lifting heavier weights. Some advantages of this, and a major advantage of resistance training includes its ability to build muscle strength and endurance, as well as increase bone density, which can overall reduce the risk of fractures. However, a disadvantage would obviously be if performed incorrectly, there's that risk of injury, especially with heavier weights, and it also may require access to gym equipment and other equipments. So yeah, that's all from me for this lesson. We hope that you guys have learnt something today. And yeah, we will now move on to our activities, and you guys should be watching the PowerPoint and going through your activities as guided. Well, thanks, U12. See you soon.